Open world games.
Open world.
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 Okay, open world games don't necessarily suck. In fact, some of my favorite games ever made are open world, but the problem I have with the term is how we've reached a point where developers use it to advertise or sell their game. That mountain isn't a backdrop, that moon isn't a backdrop, and the Soviet Union isn't a backdrop.
You can visit it too.
For whatever reason, that one board meeting decided for the game to be open world. Hint, the widely successful games are open world, so we should do it too. The team in charge of creating it is now stumped. What should it look like? How should we get from point A to point B? Should we put in side quests? Should those side quests be any good, or just filler to increase the length of the game? Should our game have had a different structure? Does our game benefit from being open world? And I feel like that last statement is where certain developers miss the mark. What ends up truly distinguishing the good games from the great games, and the great games from the generational ones. So grab your friends, grab your pets, grab your snacks, grab your butt cheeks. We're gonna try and figure out why your open world game isn't fun. Let's start with the setting. When trying to figure out whether your game should incorporate an open world, it's important to think about how the setting will help bring your world to life. Generally speaking, the more fictional and fantastical your world is, the better your chances are at imagining its wildlife, its environments, its atmosphere, and the rules you write for that world will be a lot more flexible. If I create an open world with monsters that can breathe fire and monologue the dialogue for Shrek Forever After from memory, then you wouldn't bat an eye if I told you every time the protagonist clapped his ass cheeks, the enemy goes blind. Willingly. Let's take an example. Elden Ring, The Lands Between. You are present in a world filled with dragons, demons, kings, queens, magic, witches, a wolfman. So is a dude eating shit really that hard to accept? Or a massive fuck-off conqueror with swords the size of trees riding an anorexic horse? What about Hyrule? You have a water domain with fish people, a fire domain with rock-eating ogres, a wind domain with bird people, and an earth domain with women-only warriors. There are creatures who shit golden poo when you solve puzzles, hostile goblins, lizards, and lion centaurs that accept you as one of them when you put on a mask. But don't linger too long around the Lionel. Of course, the longer you spend carefully crafting a world, the deeper the connection an audience has to it, as well as the creatures that populate it. Some developers can sidestep that world building and take the route of using an already established piece of work. Shadow of Mordor with the Lord of the Rings universe, the Witcher franchise from the books, Hogwarts Legacy with Harry Potter, Star Wars, Batman, Spider-Man. When you are gifted the opportunity to work on a loved franchise, the fans will only ask that you love that franchise enough to faithfully adapt its world. Otherwise, they know you're just in it for the money. One of my biggest wishes is that someone somewhere eventually adapts the Percy Jackson franchise into a video game, or the Kingkiller Chronicles, or Avatar. Not that one. The good one. There are incredibly successful settings that have not needed to be purely fantastical, and not all fantastical worlds are even that great. Some of my favorite worlds have been post-apocalyptic, futuristic, or a mix of both. You know what? Horizon's a bitch. Perfect setting. Perfect setting! But there was just so much that could have been better as far as an open world goes. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But first, I need to talk about games that decided to go for more realistic settings. The more grounded the setting is, the more you'll have to maintain its sense of realism, its limitations, and the rules you write can't be absurd or you'll end up breaking the immersion. If the protagonist's ass cheeks clap in this instance, he's probably getting dicked down. Really bad. To you, the Far Cries and the Divisions and the Watch Dogs and the Mad Maxes and whatever the fuck this scammy piece of shit is, it's time to take a piece out of Rockstar's book. Specifically, Red Dead Redemption 2. If you've ever thought about how to make a grounded world fun, this is it. The level of interactivity in Red Dead is what makes it so immersive. You can start bar fights, greet and antagonize strangers, go fishing, go hunting. When you hunt, you actively search for a beast's trail. You can skin whatever you kill. There's legendary fish and beasts. You can play the knife game. You can play poker, you can rob trains, lasso NPCs and drag them around, sit in and listen to your gang's conversations. Arthur is never in the same position you leave him in when you close the game and restart it. It's as if the world exists even when you're not playing it. The world is beautiful and it demands you truly see it. And that's why most of the game is horse riding and fast travel is so inconvenient. Rockstar is making sure you see every inch of this world. But that doesn't automatically mean all games should have inconvenient traversal. The world you create should warrant it. Otherwise, I'll look at your game like, fuck this shit, I want to glide across the map because there's nothing to do! And speaking of gliding across the map... Car, horseback. Car, horseback. Car, horseback. Car, horseback. Chocobo. Aww. Ugly Chocobo. It's important to ask the question, is it tedious to get from point A to point B? If not, then go ahead and put in whatever vehicle or mount you had in mind. Ugly fucking Chocobo. But if it is tedious, then there's a few things to consider. Can I place things along the way to make the journey more interesting? I already mentioned Red Dead in this instance, so let's go with Elden Ring. I barely remember even spending that much time on Torrent because I was always drawn towards something in the distance, transported to another location against my will, or something was always drawn towards me. A lot of games tend to prioritize the destination being fun, but the truth is, great open world games make the journey fun as well. Breath of the Wild turned climbing into a fun minigame, so you had to figure out how to manage stamina to reach a high place. And from there, you jump off and glide into whatever looks interesting. Tears of the Kingdom said, fuck it, we're shooting you up into the stratosphere so you can have a wider field of view. And wait, there's islands in the sky as well. And if you don't like using the horse anymore, just make something cool yourselves, we don't care. And that's how you navigate a massive area. Time to pick on Horizon again. So in Zero Dawn, you had something going, letting me hack into mounts, boring mounts, but you still let me do it, and it was quite fun at the time. In Forbidden West, you gave me a glider, which is good, but you didn't allow me to climb any surface I wanted so I could use it. So climbing ended up being inconvenient because I needed to see what was possible to climb, and then gliding didn't take me very far. So I still used that stupid ass fast travel system because traversal wasn't working for me. And the one thing that would have made it amazing to travel was unlocked towards the end of the game. This Sunwing pissed me off so much. Let me have it earlier, man. Ugh! Superhero games. If you are working on a superhero game, I feel like this is a cheat code. I've always had fun with traversal when it came to superhero games. You're playing as a motherfucking metahuman, or just a really smart billionaire with combat expertise. I know games where I've spent countless hours feeling all powerful, like the citizen's fate rested in my hands and I could kill him if I wanted. We really need a new Infamous. I also believe there is a genuine undisputed king of traversal. One game where I could spend an endless amount of time going to the world because it was so addicting to do so. Give it up for the one and only Transformers Devastation. Shit. Next up, exploration. Don't you just hate it when you open a map and, oh, I know what I'm gonna find there now. Thank you, Horizon. Either that or regurgitated content. Rinse, repeat. Rinse, repeat. Rinse, repeat. Oh, look, it's a cute little fox. Oh, bamboo challenge. Where's the bird taking me now? A haiku? Oh shit, let me spit some bars.
Several days later.
Another fox. I will endanger your species. Oh, look, more bamboo. Where will you take me now, little bird? Oh, hey. My pee-pee is hard. She said hers was way harder. It's bigger than mine. I don't want to spend too long on this one. I think games with open worlds should reward a sense of exploration and not make it cumbersome. That's why it ties into how you plan to create the setting for your open world. Exploration in a more grounded setting won't always work because there aren't too many rewards or discoveries that could fit the setting. Of course, that depends entirely on developer creativity. There are a lot of people who adore Ghost of Tsushima, and I am very sorry to say this, but I think the world got very stale very fast. And I still 100%ed it just to see if there was anything worth exploring. But apart from that one cool quest with the guy who had something to do with lightning, I got bored quick. In Breath of the Wild, Elden Ring, Tears of the Kingdom, and you know what? I'll even let Horizon stick a foot in there. Exploration did feel pretty good. Stumbling upon dragons, more dragons, underground froggy, death birds, rock monsters, robo-dinos, three-headed dragon, land sharks. This is where you weren't having an open world. I could talk about a dozen other games that do manage to deliver in moments, but it's this trio of games that is so consistent in blowing my mind with how much there is to do and see and fight. If you feel like there should be another game mentioned in this breath, please leave it in the comments and I will try and play it. Finally, I want to talk about structure. Honestly, this could be a video in itself, but the basic idea is your game probably doesn't have to be open world. Open zones, semi-open worlds, open sandbox levels, these are all different ways you can fit in quote-unquote open world content without having to change the original structure of the game you intended. I feel like Horizon could have been an incredible semi-open world. Ghost of Tsushima would have benefited a lot more from having compact zones with densely populated content, something the Yakuza games are so fucking good at. For some reason, I guess to try and boost time played, a lot of these open world games stretch out their worlds and the content ends up being very bare bones or repetitive. Most recently, Resident Evil 4 Remake, God of War Ragnarok, The Last of Us 2 have these segments in an otherwise predominantly linear game where you can actually explore a wider open area. And it feels a lot better to do because it's content that's packed into a smaller space without feeling intrusive or overwhelming. There was that boating segment in Resident Evil 4, freeing the Half-Gafas and destroying Freya's wedding gifts in God of War Ragnarok. A whole other open open space, which was completely random, but a lot of fun because I fought a dragon. And that part where Ellie picked up a random guitar and that one guy on YouTube played Take On Me, that was an open space. So yeah, I mean, if you're making an open world, you should know what kind of setting your game should take place in and whether it'll go hand in hand with exploration. Can you reasonably populate the area with things to see and do? If not, maybe the structure of the game can change a bit, making certain portions of the game linear and certain segments more open. Or maybe you can create smaller locations altogether and shove a wide variety of content into those worlds. Is getting from point A to point B going to be a pain in the ass? Or will it actually be fun to do? Starfield and Spider-Man 2 are some of the biggest games coming out very soon, and I'm excited. I'm excited because I want to see whether more games are picking up on the fact that their competitors are absolutely blowing the open world space out of the water, and excited to see what future games will do next. But for now, my friends, I leave you with this. Should Ben 10 be an open world game? Comment below. Bye-bye.
Hadouken!